Hashtag defend media freedom. We're just 24 hours away from the Joy News National Media Freedom Dialogue, which will focus on safeguarding media freedom ahead of the December general election. Well, we know that key stakeholders, including the Inspector General of Police, political party representatives and civil society, will gather at the Nat Hall to forge the path for a safe journalism practice. Senior editor and head of our political desk, Evans Spencer, joins us in the studio with more on what to expect. Evans, great to have you here.
Great to be here.
Now, unfortunately, as journalists here at Joy News, we've had our fair share of media brutalities. This is long overdue. It
is, especially if you look at how steeply we're falling on the World Press Freedom Index. In 2021, our position was 30th, which was really good. There was a time actually when in 2018, Ghana was chosen as a hosting base for the World Press Freedom Day, just to reaffirm and to validate our position as a country with a strong democratic credentials where journalists go about their work freely. And then you look at 2023, where our rankings have now fallen to 62nd. That tells you that something horribly had gone wrong. We have lost our as much as 32. We've dropped up as much as 32 points down the rankings. That isn't good. You look at the School of Communication Studies survey that it recently did, that shows that at least 40% of journalists told them, their researchers, that they have suffered one form of abuse or assault in the line of work. And you mentioned, and you're right, I mean, some of our own colleagues have been assaulted in the process of just reporting and doing their work across the country. And much of this happens during the electioneering period as we go about our work. So yes, it's long overdue. We've been dropping on the World Press Freedom Index since 2021 to our lowest point of 62nd. Something must happen, and must happen urgently, and this is in response to that.
Let's look at the rich lineup we have. We have the IGP, political party representatives, civil society, all coming together. What kind of commitment are we looking at getting from some of them when they come in tomorrow?
And the reason why we have all these stakeholders is that they represent institutions with responsibility to protect, but also to ensure that we work in a safe environment. The IGP obviously is the head of the police service, and the police service is a very important institution in ensuring the safety of this country during the polls, and they have the election security task force. And so we will be operating in zones and in communities, polling stations, and in constituencies across the country where the police will be mandated to ensure that the poll itself is safe. But if you're policing the poll, you're also policing the individuals who are working within that particular enclave. You're talking about polling station officers, you're talking about the Electoral Commission officers and agents, but most importantly, you're talking about journalists who essentially will be bringing the reports to the rest of the country. And I asked the question recently, whilst we were planning this, that imagine that on the 6th of December, journalists decide a blackout on elections across the country, that we're boycotting the elections and we're not going to cover it because a lot of our colleagues have been assaulted over the years. Imagine the chaos that this country will be plunged into if there's no coverage of the elections. Everybody is in the dark. So if you're not at the polling station, you don't know what is happening across the country. That is how important. It's almost apocalyptic just to imagine that. And that is why we're bringing all these institutions into the fold. We expect the IGP, and he's been gracious enough to tell us that he will be delivering a keynote address there, his remark to us, but also expressing their own commitments to us at the event. Of course, we're talking about the Ministry of Information representing the government. They have a responsibility there. The Electoral Commission itself, we're working very closely with them. Information sharing is key because in the absence of accurate information or timely information, that vacuum will be occupied by disinformation and sometimes misinformation. And that is what we want to deal with. So the EC is going to be there. The political parties will be there. Often journalists are assaulted, not by the leaders of the political parties, but people who support the parties, the fringe elements. And if you have the party making a public commitment, the signal is sent out there to their millions and millions of supporters to say, when you see a journalist, help them do their jobs and not be a hindrance in their way or assault them. So that's why we have this collection of institutions. The NMC also confirmed will be there. The Executive Secretary himself will be there, George Sapon, or to also give a commitment to us all tomorrow.
What are we expecting to be contained in the final communique? Because I'm sure after this event, we'll be getting some of them to commit to ensuring media freedom. I'm quite concerned about civil society groups as well.
We expect a communique to put out key objectives, goals, and targets for all of us, but also commitments that we can hold people to, not only at the event, but post the event, for the political parties in particular. This is a long period into the elections, but it doesn't end even after the elections. Way after the elections, journalists used to go about their job. So we want to use that communique as a tool to hold the institutions and the leadership of these institutions, including the political parties, accountable. And that is what we're looking for. And so we're going to have clear, measurable commitments from all these institutions and the leaders of these institutions, including the political parties themselves, in that document that we will share with them afterwards. And most critically, we will follow up. Now, part of this project that we're doing with the CDD, and this is part of the CDD project that we're working with them on, the Defend Media Freedom Project, is also responsibility of journalists. It's not only about protect us, but a license for us to go out there and be responsible. Because if you're irresponsible, then you are actually giving the other person the right, or at least they will feel so, to also then abuse you, right? Of course, abuse is never an answer to anything. Even if a journalist is misbehaving, there are laid down processes for that. But we don't want to put ourselves in a place where the public that we are seeking to serve will then perceive us as being irresponsible. So part of this project is also to train the journalists who are going to be out there reporting this year. And so we're going to be training journalists. And as you know, we are going to be working with loads of journalists across the country, journalists we haven't met before, but work in their communities. And we'll be empowering them. And the police will help us train. The Electoral Commission will help us train. We'll bring experts ourselves to share and impact knowledge. So we are responsible in doing a job. And then we can now demand that, the other agencies and institutions respond by being a shield and protecting and defending media freedom wherever they are.
And all this is happening tomorrow at Nat Hall, 4 p.m. How can I be a part of it if I'm watching? You
definitely have to tune in to Joy News, listen to Joy 99.7 FM, go onto our social media page because we're going to be live. And if you're invited, you should come to the Nat Hall because you're starting at 4, but you should be seated by 3:30, the latest. So we encourage people to be there if you believe in the importance of the media and the work that we do, that we cannot have a transparent elections without the media. Come there and join the conversation, ask a question, make your own personal commitment. But even before tomorrow, the hashtag is out there, Defend Media Freedom, GH, hashtag. So post it and use that hashtag and let's all be part of this initiative to protect media freedom.
To be a part of it, join the hashtag on all our social media handles, hashtag Defend Media Freedom GH, and be at Nat Hall tomorrow, 4 p.m. as we have this national dialogue. My name is